breakdown, and it shows how Washington and Albany both force businesses to give all their money to these organizations so they can grow larger and more powerful. That's what Senator Gillibrand is part of, and that's what voters across the state want to break that hold.
Okay, but Republicans aren't lily white here, just to be fair. I mean, in the past, you've had numerous corruption issues with Republicans in the state Senate and in Washington, and the Republicans have closed ranks around them. So how is it exactly that this is any different? It's just on the other side of the aisle.
I didn't say it was different. I said the Washington culture of tax and spend. And so what I hope is happening now nationwide is a transformation of the Republican Party in a positive direction. But what I know is from my campaign, I'm running for New Yorkers. And that's what I challenge Senator Gillibrand on. She doesn't comment on, she makes very few opportunities for people to understand why she's making these votes. She's voting over and over again against New Yorkers, and we've got to stop it. That's what the election is all about.
And you've also actually been critical of her on the mosque, this issue now that we have the president weighing in on. And she appears to be, all the Democrats in general, most of them, appear to be supporting the president. And first, did you think it was appropriate for the president to weigh in on this New York issue?
I didn't think so. If he wants to comment on New York, please comment on how Congress, on ways to stop Congress from hurting New York as deeply as they have. We're losing population, we're losing revenues, we're losing companies because Washington is and the Congress is imposing huge taxes aimed squarely at New York. If you think about how you could design a tax that would really harm New York, you'd come up with what they're planning here for the end of the year, a tax on the top marginal rate that hits dividends and capital gains, that has a big estate tax, and that limits Schedule A deductions. You couldn't design a better tax, a worse tax for New Yorkers, and that's what Senator Gillibrand supports. So New York has to stand up and say, stop. This is bad for our state. This is bad for our jobs.
Okay, but the mosque is an issue that has divided people. It's now a national issue. I mean, obviously, it's going to be played out, and certainly the Republicans say that they're going to be using it. Will you use it increasingly as a campaign issue against her? You will.
Certainly. I think it's a relevant issue. Why is she supporting the mosque? What I've done in my press releases is to say she should be questioning things, as Senator Schumer is doing. So why is Senator Gillibrand kind of cluelessly supporting the mosque when even Senator Schumer is saying that he'd like to ask questions? So I want her to ask the questions of the funding, of why it's being put in this place, on the doorstep of Ground Zero. This is a very important spot for New York and for the families of the people that died in 9/11. And so I don't think it should be put in that spot. The imam is traveling around the world not responding to questions, and Senator Gillibrand should be asking more questions.
Well, he's traveling around the world on the State Department's dime, right? I mean, they said it was okay for him to go. In terms of Senator Schumer, he said he's not opposed to this particular mosque. I mean, I'm not necessarily clear. When did he say that he wanted?
At the news accounts I was reading today, made it look,
Hamas came out in support of it.
And so I don't want to support. So Senator Schumer is not the issue here. Senator Gillibrand has steadfastly supported both Rangel, saying he's the chairman, and the mosque without really asking questions. And that's, I think, typical. That's par for the course, that she didn't ask more questions about the health care bill. Think of the damage that it did to New York, and she was just a rubber stamp vote for whatever Washington wanted. And that's true of the stimulus bill, the cap and trade, which she voted for as a congresswoman. And then she's flipped on issues. Remember, when she was a congresswoman, she was called a blue dog Democrat, had some conservative upstate views. But as soon as she was senator, she became a rubber stamp for the big Washington agenda of growing the government. They did this financial regulatory reform bill and didn't even touch Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, which are Washington institutions.
But speaking, though, of the TARP, you're talking about the bailout, you're talking about the TARP. The Democrats are tying you to that from your days at Bear Stearns.
I wasn't I didn't mention TARP. I was talking about
You talked about the stimulus bill earlier in this conversation, right? So the Democrats have tried to tie you to that, saying that you were working for Bear Stearns and they received bailout cash. And what's your response to that?
Now, wait, let's get our terms. So I was talking about the fiscal stimulus bill in early 2009, where it was $800 billion of spending. In late 2008, there was TARP. Bear Stearns had already failed 6 months before TARP came out, so it wasn't involved in a TARP funding. So with regard to Bear Stearns, as you know, investment banks separate research from products. So I was on the research side of Bear Stearns. I was the chief economist. So I commented on markets around the world and on job creation and didn't have anything to do with subprime products. So to link the two is like blaming the weatherman for the weather.
But do you think that voters can make that distinction, actually?
Yeah, definitely. Look, does New York need senators who are thoughtful? We have a deep tradition as a state of having thoughtful, independent voices in Washington that understand the economy, understand the finance, and financial markets. Do you want to have a senator who doesn't? And if so, well, we have her in Senator Gillibrand. She hasn't been involved in markets or economy, and it bothers me some, hasn't seemed to show much interest in learning about them, in commenting on them. And they're vital to New York from the standpoint of jobs and the profit that pays the state revenues. You know, New York depends on a well-regulated financial system.
Well, there's going to be, of course, much more discussion of this at the GOP debate, and I'm looking forward to it. We'll be seeing you there, David Malpass. Thank you.